am Peter, and I'm from the Meta Cartel. Apologies for, slightly late. So, I'm not sure if you all know about Moloch DAO, but Moloch DAO was this DAO created, to really within the Ethereum community to fund ETH 2.0 development, right? And I wanted to join as well, except, I was not allowed in, right? So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna fork it and run and build my own DAO, right? And I guess the Meta Cartel DAO is its output. So the Meta Cartel DAO essentially is a DAO that's focusing on applications like experimentation, right? This really was born out of the need for great experimentation around the application layer. Working around meta transactions and a lot of application layer infrastructure for most of last year, right? I was noticing a lot of infrastructure come into place, right? And we were starting to find, we're starting to see the pieces come together in terms of usability, onboarding, and scalability, even on layer 2, right? And I felt like it was time that we kind of it's almost like we exited this infrastructure cycle that lasted 18 months. From the start of 2007, from the start of the CryptoKitties craze, right? And yeah, so this Meta Cartel DAO is a DAO that's looking to fund and incubate, I guess, valuable products for the crypto community. At least that's the focus for the DAO right now. Yeah. So what is basically, what is this chili, right? So this is a DAO's emblem, and I guess a DAO didn't really start out as a DAO from scratch, right? The Meta Cartel has been a community that existed kind of a year or long before the DAO existed, right? So the DAO came from within this community. The Meta Cartel community was this community that was focusing on application layer experimentation, infrastructure, right? That was looking to experiment with various pieces of UX technologies. We started off with meta transactions, right? And the output of this group was the gas station network that recently went mainnet. And yeah, this community has around 400 to 500 people in this community, and we're the first fork of Moloch DAO, and yeah, this is a dancing chili that may or may not be explained later on. So essentially, this DAO is funding early stage experimentation, and so far we have around 900 ETH inside of it. We've processed around 46 proposals for funding, and we funded around one wave of grants, right, totaling about $7,000 to $8,000 in total. And we accepted DAO membership. This all happened within the first month of the DAO's operation, and that's kind of what I'm here to talk about today, right? No one, before before doing this DAO, I had literally no expectation of what was going to happen, how, and what challenges I would face, right? And I just wanted to bring more, I guess, awareness back to what it takes to run a DAO. I just don't think anyone's talking about the operational challenges of how do you run a DAO? How do you make them work? Why are they special? Why are they valuable? And what it takes to kind of do one, and the challenges you kind of face, right? Basically, me and a bunch of other folks, including James Young and Alex Hoffman, started this DAO with no idea what we're doing, right? And we're only starting to learn more about how to do this. And yeah, the DAO is funded by various community partners within the ecosystem, right? And we're incredibly grateful for the backing really into this entire new experiment, right? And many of the members here are also here today, so shout out. So yeah, I guess the first, just before I go into the challenges, right? I guess we launched this DAO with the intention of providing money to people who want to experiment with the application because of that context I just provided previously, right? And upon launching, I noticed that a lot of the previous other DAOs that exist in the space spend a lot of time planning and discussing and whiteboarding, ideating. I didn't want to do any of that. I didn't want to talk governance at all, right? I wanted to coordinate this DAO to achieve something, right? DAOs are a means to achieve something, not to talk about governance, right? So I went into the first meeting of the DAO about a month ago, early July, with the intent of okay, within the first month of coordinating this DAO and having the first meeting, I want to distribute the first wave of grants, right, to back various projects in the ecosystem. And I wanted to go into this DAO with an action-driven strategy and attitude and ethos, right? I didn't want to waste time planning. I wanted to understand how to run a DAO, and I wanted to uncover the identity of the DAO via action, right? And yeah, like I guess like trying to get like the first wave of grants out within the first one was kind of a challenge, right? Because like during the first meeting, I spent the whole time like we had like weekly meetings, right? During the first meeting, I spent the whole time like trying to understand everyone's like intentions of joining the DAO. And this was kind of a challenge because we had like 20-something people in the initial call, and you know, and as we kind of progressed our conversations, right? One thing dawned on me, like, and it was like the major challenge of like communication, right? One of the major problems of running a DAO is actually like, how do you like foster communication and basically, you know, document all of that, right? Because within the first few meetings, we basically started talking about what should be funded, how should we fund it, why should we fund things, you know, what is the criteria, how do we improve the criteria, you know, how do we view the process of grants that we do fund. And these were various threads of communication that was mainly like being facilitated by a Zoom call and one Telegram group, right? Like this was basically a terrible idea. And I realized that, you know, no one ever talked about communication within a DAO, you know. And I guess like, so one of the first things we did was essentially just like deploy a discourse forum, right? To facilitate all discussion. And later on, later in the month, when I joined Moloch DAO, I realized that they use a Discord Discord chat, right, to facilitate discussion. And hence we moved from a Telegram chat to Discord, which was like actually a 10x improvement, right? Telegram chats are no good for coordinating DAOs. And you need an open place of discussion where, you know, not only that anyone can perhaps participate, right? It's actually like, you know, the less control you kind of, I guess like, you know, take, the less effort it takes to coordinate in many senses, right? And like I think like communication is one of the major problems of like running a DAO in the early stages, because you have a lot of like things you need to communicate but also discover, right? Like finding consensus is pretty hard as well, because you know, like in the early stage of a DAO, you have to understand like what are we doing, you know, how do we discover what we're doing, you know, and how do we kind of evolve. And the thing is, not everyone's on the weekly calls, not everyone is, you know, looking at the chats. You know, there's very scattered like patterns of like attention that you kind of have to coordinate, right, and patch together to kind of find consensus and move things forward, right? And sometimes you just have to like make decisions and like keep on trucking, right? And I'm like more than okay to actually take that approach of just like doing something, trying to find rough consensus and just like roughly moving on. Rather than like waste time and just like, you know, like wave up out. And like, the main challenge of the DAO is actually like coordination and social, right? It's actually like very little to do with technology. Like we basically use a Moloch DAO mainly because, you know, we knew how to run it. Like the core members of the DAO were the core members of Moloch DAO, right? And you know, it kind of worked. You know, Moloch DAO coordinated firstly 400K in capital, then you know later, you know, 700K, totaling like 1.8 million at the time. It works, right? That's what we kind of needed. And we wanted a way for people to commit while having an option to exit any time, right? No other DAO framework had that ability, and we could kind of just do this like pretty much like tomorrow, right? I mean, that's kind of the value of like DAOs in a sense. So like that coordination is probably like the other pillar, like, you know, and I'd say that the main ingredients of a DAO that I guess like that are truly important are like just strict and I guess rigorous and diligent like project management and communications, right? And a lot of like messaging people, bugging people. And I guess this is like a screenshot of like how our Discord chat is run. And we have a forum where anyone can actually come and visit and actually post proposals for funding, right? And this is where we host all discussions, from how to improve the DAO to new DAO suggestions, any new ideas. It's all here, right? And we realized it's like, basically before the DAO, we actually coordinated a centralized grant process, right? To collect initial like pre-DAO launch funding proposals. Because one of the key problems of like DAOs is that, you know, I realized I learned from Moloch DAO is that, you know, like you needed to keep the ball rolling, right? And we needed to kick the DAO off of an initial round of grants. And sourcing that was actually a major challenge for Moloch DAO. So we just took the easy route and just like collected a bunch of grants, right? But then, well, as we were processing these, like we were processing like around 20 to 30 grants for this like form process, like pre-form, and basically it took a lot of effort, right? Even just manually processing those. So we're like, why not like actually create a proposal for process on the forum and let anyone vet it, right? And let anyone do due diligence. Technically anyone could, but it's really just like me taking the proposal and bringing up it within the DAO meeting. We don't have a lot of like inbound flow right now, but as as this kind of increases, we might even like play with the TCR to kind of surface the ones that we do want to talk about, right? Yeah. I guess like what are the value of DAOs, right? Like one thing I realized like straight off the bat when I was witnessing Moloch, and hence why I wanted to join, was the fact that like DAOs are like really great at coordinating capital. But I didn't think too much of it, and I only like went into Metacosmos DAO with this intent, right? I wanted to use the DAO to coordinate capital, and this was made possible by Web3 technologies, right? Like Metacosmos and Moloch DAO probably wouldn't exist with like as traditional structures. Like the friction to coordinate that little capital in those microphones is probably like not worth it, right? And yeah, like given this, like I didn't really care anything too much about decentralization. I was like, whatever. We just needed to coordinate capital and provide new forms of funding for these projects, right? And however, I was pleasantly surprised through this first month. I realized that DAOs firstly quite decentralized socially, which is kind of cool. Just like the act of like bringing various people together on one roof, it's actually pretty hard to coordinate, and also you actually had some sort of like social like decentralization right off the bat. As we were like processing grant proposals and also deciding who should join the DAO, right? I actually realized that DAOs actually pretty can provide great judgment, right? That was surprising to me for some reason, But as we were processing proposals, I mean, most of the DAO members initially were founders, right, or operators, and we had like pretty great judgment. I feel like on a lot of like the proposals that we were discussing, and it was I guess the diversity of thought actually provided some really grounded arguments that I would have like never really thought about, right? And now I actually kind of like lean on the DAO for judgment on like funding proposals, just simply because I know that the DAO can surface better judgment and insight and due diligence than I could if I just tried myself for a few hours thinking about projects, right? And alongside that, DAOs are great for recording discussion that would never really happen at anyone else. That was also like a interesting, learning, right? Like, it's a coordination around a shared problem, a unique problem, right? And you have this barrier of entry. It fosters high quality and high signal discussion. It's very similar to like a club, right? But yeah, that was another surprising thing that I gained value out of, like through a DAO, right? I guess like right now, since we like released the initial round of grants out, the DAO's next challenge operationally is basically, can we actually incubate a project within the DAO from idea to MVP to launch, right? And it's really much more like a operational exercise of like, can we actually now take the next step forward and begin running, right? And basically we're building a TCR to list every crypto project in the community. We want to replace Crunchbase, LinkedIn, and AngelList, right? This is part of the bigger strategy of the DAO where we're really focused on like crypto projects for the crypto community. We don't have a lot of resources, and our strengths are in basically beaming and marketing and distribution, right? We're really good at these things, and we want to leverage this to our full extent, right? So it's like kind of like what Web2 applications can we replace with Web3 technologies and through dApps that we can actually kind of push, right? And yeah, this is one of the first projects that we're incubating right now, and that's currently being developed. And yeah, like I guess the next steps after that is kind of like, can we actually, drive innovation and drive further experimentation around like, Web3 native business models in dApps, right? With like a real propensity to find product market fit within the crypto community. Like we've actually found product market fit in DeFi, DAOs kind of work to some extent. And like, can we actually, next year, for example, can we like launch and incubate 3 new products for the crypto community with entirely new novel and native crypto business models, right? Like we're talking like tokenized ad models, where you tokenize ad spaces and you sell them through a bonding curve. Can we like invest into revenue share tokens, DeFi staking mechanisms, TCRs? I think these are all unexplored like business models that no one's seriously taking a stab at, right? Mainly because of like, we haven't found product market fit. Composability didn't matter before, but now it kind of really matters because it's something useful to actually build on now, right? And plus we now have the infrastructure. And like he would create a new market of like on-chain assets for the DAOs to not only invest into, but coordinate investment into. Yeah, and that's Metacartel DAO. We're always looking for fun people to kind of like coordinate and work with, right? And yeah, like that's our contact and happy to talk.